The ADL has become such a cuckoo organization that you wonder why anyone pays it any attention. But just this week, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk killing, NBC posted some of the ADL's so-called data. Look at this. Right-wing ideologies have fueled more than 70% of all extremist attacks and domestic terror plots since 2002 in the U.S. And look at that big blue bar at the top. White supremacists are on the rampage. So don't worry about Charlie Kirk's killer or attempts to murder the president. The problem, always and everywhere, is white supremacy. How does the ADL get these silly numbers? Every year, it puts out a report called Murder and Extremism to tell you how awful white people were the previous year. Here is this year's report about last year's awful white people. Most of the 2024 extremist-related murders were committed by white supremacists, and you would assume that all the other killers were white too. Only 13 deaths, which must have been a disappointment for the ADL, but not a single Islamic or left-wing killing. What were all these white supremacist murders you never heard about? Career criminal Jesse James Sullivan was out of the big house on parole. He killed his half-brother because he thought the brother had snitched about another crime. The ADL says that the killer was in a white prison gang. Don McDougal, who had a record of child enticement, killed this 11-year-old girl. The ADL says he has 2 swastika tattoos and has ties to a white prison gang. Aaron Salter, a criminal on the lam, beat a man to death with a metal baseball bat after telling him, "Stay out of my yard." The ADL says he was affiliated with a white supremacist prison gang. Zachary Babitz had been out of the pen just a few months when he killed a man and stole his Jeep. ADL says he has a 1488 tattoo and had just joined the Asatru Folk Assembly, which it calls white supremacist. Darren Abbey killed a man camping in a tent and stole his guns. He reportedly has a swastika tattoo. I can't find a photo for Timothy Cole, but he tried to set fire to a relative's house as part of a custody battle. When the cops came, he drove off at 90 miles an hour and crashed into this white BMW. A passenger in it died. ADL says he is a white supremacist gang member. Nicholas Umfenauer was an ex-con who was out of prison. He decided to help a prison buddy in a jailbreak. Skylar Mead was being returned to prison after a hospital visit, and Umfenauer killed a police officer in an ambush to spring his pal. ADL says they were in a white supremacist prison gang. That's it for white supremacists. Now, you thought all their victims were going to be innocent BIPOCs, but you were wrong. Most of these men were in white prison gangs, which they often joined just to protect themselves from Hispanic and black gangs. These 5 people killed 2 women over a custody dispute. They were reportedly part of an anti-government group that called itself God's Misfits. This makes it right-wing extremist murder. Justin Moan thought the government had betrayed the people. His father was a federal employee and resisted when his son tried to arrest him. Justin shot him and cut off his head. More right-wing extremism. Julie Sulpicio set up a police ambush in which an officer was killed. She is so deranged, she's been twice found not competent to stand trial, but she had anti-government propaganda in her house, which makes her a far-right extremist murderer. You see the pattern. The ADL finds any killing for any reason by anyone it can remotely call a white supremacist or right-wing loony, and then that's extremist terrorist murder. I guess there wasn't a single Antifa who killed his ex-girlfriend, not one MS-13 thug who killed a rival, and no hopped-up Muslim who killed anyone. But there is one genuine political killing in this report. This black guy, Corey Cobb Bay, is a self-styled sovereign citizen and member of the Moorish Science Temple who hates the government. He walked up to a stranger, Officer Darren Burks, and shot him dead. Other officers took him out. That sounds like a political or terrorist murder, killing strangers for a political reason. And the only case the ADL could find was a black man killing another black man. But it forgot to tell you that they were black. The other stuff, killing someone over a custody battle, that's just plain old crime, for heaven's sake. And the ADL left out Luigi Mangione, who killed the CEO of United Healthcare because Mangione hated insurance companies. It left out Natalie Rupnow, who shot up the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin, killing 3 people and wounding 6 more. This is how the ADL gets these scary numbers about white supremacist terror and extremism. If a white guy with a swastika tattoo kills his wife, that's terrorism. This report is junk. Anyone who cites it is stupid or thinks you're stupid. I can't wait for the report on 2025. On the very first day of the year, a single Muslim killed more innocents than all the victims the ADL could dredge up for all of 2024. Shamsuddin Jabbar flew an ISIS flag from his truck and plowed through a New Year's crowd on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. 15 dead, 50 injured. There was the Charlie Kirk assassination, 3 lethal attacks on ICE facilities. And how about transsexual Robin Westman, who murdered 2 children and wounded 17 other people at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis? Will the ADL bring itself to admit, as The Atlantic did this week, that left-wing terrorism is on the rise? Or will it insult us with more phony white supremacist trash? What it ought to do is close its doors. Jonathan Greenblatt runs the organization that puts out this worthless report. In 2022, he wrote an article called Getting It Right in Defining Racism, in which he confessed he doesn't know how to define it. We are going to open ourselves to comments on our new definition of racism from the public. The Anti-Defamation League has been fighting what it claimed was racism for 109 years. But this dope, whose annual salary is more than $1,200,000, isn't even sure what it is. Give up, fellas. You spend over $100 million a year on 550 employees to make fools of yourselves. And you turn your own name upside down and defame other people for a living. Pretty soon, even NBC will be laughing at you.